Good morning. I'm Gord Long with the Financial Repression Authority. I have Egon von Greyerz joining us once again, this time from Zurich. Egon is a former banker, former corporate vice chairman of a FTSE 100 corporation, founder of managing partner of Matterhorn Asset Management and Gold Switzerland, amongst many things. Welcome back, Egon.
Gordon, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Egon, our listeners, we have so many new viewers that they may not be familiar with Matterhorn Asset Management or Gold Switzerland. Could you just give an overview?
Yes, Matterhorn Asset Management was founded by me. The company specializes in wealth preservation. And as a result of that, already back in 2002, we decided that the world was going to be in a mess, and it was critical for investors to have some insurance or wealth preservation assets. And therefore, we went into gold in quite a big way already in 2002. And that's when gold was around $300 an ounce. A bit later, we formed a special division for the precious metal side, which is called Gold Switzerland. Now we have clients all over the world. We have clients in over 40 countries, and they are primarily wealth preservation clients. And we store the gold in their name. We are not a counterparty to the transaction. We organize everything, and we do that in Switzerland, in Singapore, Hong Kong, and we have a very unique vault in the Swiss Alps, which is the biggest gold vault in Europe. So that's what we do.
On that subject, Egon, have we seen a breakout in gold in your mind? Because we've seen some major overhead resistance broken here recently. Or is this a bear trap?
It's not a bear trap in my view. This has been a very long bottoming process. Gold, I always say that the orthodox bottom of gold was on the 28th of June 2013. That's what I think is the real bottom, and if you look at the technical indicators, that was also the bottom. Now, in dollar terms, we've seen gold drifting a little bit lower than that. Maybe just under $100 lower. But in most of the other currencies, gold bottomed in 2013. Some of the currencies bottomed in June, and some of the currencies bottomed in December 2013. So, as I said, it's been a slow process, and the dollar has been the last one to break out, and all the others have broken out before. And some of them spectacularly, of course. And I'm sure you, like I, watch some of the badly managed economies. And you take Argentina, for example. You've had in this century, gold has gone up 9,000% against the pesos, as an example. And that shows you how important wealth preservation is. And I can take many other, especially emerging market currencies, where gold has been going up very quickly the whole of this century. So just that the dollar has been a bit stronger, and therefore gold in dollars has taken a bit longer to break out. Now, take another currency, gold in Australian dollars. Gold in Australian dollars actually made a new monthly high in February, and that's a Western currency. So yes, I think we have a breakout. We've seen relatively rapid move now in the first couple of months of this year. I think we're just taking a little bit of a pause now, but I think this move will be fast, Gordon, because of the world is in a mess. All the fundamentals are rotten, and both sovereign states and the financial system. And I think we are now in for a period of money printing on a much bigger scale. We'll see. We are speaking. You timed this beautifully about 5 minutes before or it's actually happening now as we're talking. The ECB announcement. So, and I don't know what it is, but we know that they are likely to increase their QE, which is currently about 60 billion euros a month. But the financial system and the banking system in Europe is in a total mess. The economy is not growing. We have negative interest rates, and they're going to do all they can to stimulate the economy, and of course to try to get the financial system to survive. I don't think they will succeed, but they will do their best in their money printing efforts.
Well, before we began the show, we were talking about currency pegs in some of the countries that are under stress right now and could get much worse because of energy problems, current account problems, trying to keep their U.S. dollar pegs. So we've seen new interest in gold purchasing as they're trying to protect their store of value. Are you seeing anything like that yet, or are you anticipating that?
Well, let me tell you that, I mean, there has been a lot in the press in the last 2-3 months about major buying of gold. Most of the buying today is, as far as we concern, retail buying, small amounts of gold. I mean, we know that some of the ETFs have also gone out, but we don't see major buying from institutions or from ultra high net worth individuals or high net worth individuals. I think we're seeing a steady flow, but it's not in real fear yet. I think that's still to come. Partly, I think it's all linked to the people, only less than 0.5% of assets of world financial assets are in gold today. I mean, that's absolutely nothing. Most people do not own gold. And now, so we had the first fall in the stock market, and then there was a little bit of fear for the first 6 weeks or so of 2016. Now that's stopped and we have a correction up. To me, that's just a correction, and that is a trap. So I think the next leg down will start within the next, could start within the next week or two, maximum in the stock market, and then fear will come back generally in markets, and then I think that's when people will start looking at gold again on a bigger scale. If we speak to the Swiss refiners, also they say that the demand is not major currently. So it hasn't quite, its price has gone up, but it hasn't been a massive increase on a big scale yet in gold buying. But that is, of course, to come. We look at gold is not an investment. For us, gold is, of course, is wealth preservation, and it is insurance. And I think very few people understand that this is the most beautiful insurance that you can ever buy, because you're buying an asset that has gone up in price for 5,000 years, whilst every currency has gone down to zero. And you buy this asset as insurance, there are times when insurance is not necessary, but this is the time when the risk of your house burning down is massive. Or your other bubble assets, stocks, bonds, property, will come down dramatically in price, in my view. And therefore, to buy gold for a percentage of your assets, and everyone has to decide for themselves, that could be 10% or that could be 25%. We have investors who have a much higher percentage. But let us say the stock market goes down by 50%. I think it will go down more, but just say 50%. And gold, in my view, will at least go up 5 times. It will go up more. So if you buy gold for 10% of your asset, and that goes up 5 times, that's that goes. And then your stock market investments go down by half, then you've actually protected your position. And you can obviously play with those parameters there, buy more gold, or stock market goes up more or less, etc. But whatever levels it is, you're playing with, gold will outperform all these assets. And in my view, for example, stock markets, take the Dow, will go down by more than 90% against gold in the next 2 years. It will be down below the 1-to-1 level, i.e. 1 Dow equals 1 ounce of gold, like where we were in 1980 when gold was 850 at the peak and the Dow was 850 roughly. I think we'll go below that 1-to-1 level. So that means that anyone who sits on the conventional assets like stock market assets, that they will have their wealth destroyed, and that's why this is the time to really insure your assets. Even if you don't believe what I'm saying, because a lot of people won't believe it, because they will believe that everything will go up as it always has, that governments will save them, they will print money, more and more money. But you have to realize that you cannot possibly solve a problem by making it bigger using the same method as actually caused the problem in the first place, i.e. adding debt to debt, and debt that will never be repaid. So that's how I see the gold's role. At times when you don't need to own gold because financial markets are not being manipulated by governments and are not artificial. Right now, we have the biggest bubble in history worldwide, and therefore you've got to own gold. I'm not a gold bug. One day we'll tell our investors to get out of gold, but that might be in 5 years' time and 10 years' time. The world financial system has to first get restructured one way or another, or implode, and debt has to disappear, and we'll have to start again. So I'm not in love with gold on a permanent basis, but today I certainly think that that's one of the few ways to serve you well.
Well, it's pretty cheap insurance. Usually you pay insurance, it costs you money. You hope you never claim. There's not much downside really on the gold typically and as an insurance policy. So it's almost like free insurance in many ways in a very troubled time. But you mentioned Egon manipulated, and there's a lot of speculation on manipulation in the physical gold market or the paper gold market, but I noticed here 2 weeks ago, we had a symptom where people were starting to buy gold, but buying the GLD, and suddenly one major player had to withdraw because they couldn't match the physical that they had to buy to support the GLD, which is a paper product. And it was like all of a sudden a huge problem. Do we have a potential short squeeze that could come from those selling ETFs that are like the GLD, where they can't get the physical, which they must get to back it?
Yes, I think absolutely we do. Now, what happened a couple of weeks ago with the ETF, I think was more technical. I think that today there's still enough gold, so there's not a problem right now. But when people really start buying gold, and when the holders of paper gold demand delivery, there will not be enough gold, because and I know that all the physical gold that's produced annually, which is mine production, 2.7 thousand tons, 2,700 tons, roughly to 3,000, and then you have some scrap on top of that. All of that is being absorbed by China, India, and a few other countries. So what is produced annually is being absorbed by normal buying, and has been for years. And so if there's ever an increase in an investment demand, which there will be very soon, just think about if 0.5% is the average of world financial assets into gold, and just think about when inflation starts, and it's happening already. Inflation is creeping up. We're not seeing it quite yet, but it is coming. But when that inflation increases, and institutions, pension funds, insurance companies realize that they have to hedge their assets in gold, then you're talking about buying on a scale that can never be satisfied by the physical gold available. So, if they decide that they want to get, that they want to have let's just take a small amount, $100 million in gold. $100 million in gold is a bit over, it's 2.5 tons today. $100 million. But, in tomorrow, yes, they're still going to spend $100 million, but instead of 2.5 tons, they're going to get 1 ton or half a ton or whatever, because there's not going to be enough physical gold, so it'll be adjusted by the quantity instead of by the price they get. So people are not up enough. Now, today, you can still buy gold cheap, but in the next few years, it will be hard to get hold of gold, and the price will go up. So there'll be times when there won't be any price offered in the market, I'm sure. So yes, there will be a shortage. There will be a massive shortage. There will be crazy demand, and of course, at some point, gold might become a bubble. But that's a long, long way away in my view, because already back in 2002, when we went into gold, I said that I think it's going to go at least to $10,000 in today's money. We are still only at $1,250 today, and I still believe that we will get to 10,000 in today's money. But I have, of course, stated many times, I do not expect that we will have today's money. I expect that there will be money printing on a massive scale, which will involve inflation and hyperinflation. If gold goes to $100,000, or $100 million or $100 trillion is really irrelevant, because what you're talking about is, that's not real money, of course. I'm sure it will do better than just maintaining purchasing power, which is what gold does all the time. But I think it will go up more than by the inflation. So it will be not only a good investment, but it will actually, it will obviously maintain your purchasing power, but it will also outperform every single other asset. So it's one of the most fantastic opportunities, I think, in an investment lifetime. And sadly, very few people look at it. When gold reaches $2,000 and more, of course, a lot of people want to come into it, but at that time, there'll be less and less gold available, of course.
What do you think, Egon, as a catalyst, this NIRP, negative interest rate policy? We were shocked in Japan. Well, I guess we weren't shocked, but the world was shocked when they went to NIRP, and we've had others that have went, and suddenly we had vaults were sold out, personal vaults in Japan to store cash. Now we have, and we've had other countries in Europe already go to NIRP, and now we see Sweden going to a cashless society because of people taking money out of the banking system. What do you think that might mean? Well, what do you think of that policy, and what do you think it might mean to gold?
Well, the policy is crazy. Let's wait until it goes to 10% negative interest rate, and then you and I will go to the bank and you say, give me 100 million, and you pay me because I'm taking it, and then so I want to buy a house. Can you please pay me money because I want to buy a house? That's the consequence of this, and that tells you that it's crazy. Of course, the whole thing is crazy. It's negative. They have run out of tools in order to stimulate the economy. You can't, they're pushing on a string. Printing money hasn't helped, zero interest rate hasn't helped, and now they think negative interest rate is going to help. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever. But it is a way of confiscating money for the savers, of course. You know that an economy only functions if people save and earn a return on their savings, so those savings can be used for investment. But that is a proper supply and demand situation, and it's the only way that an economy functions in the long run. Now it's just money printing that goes and credit expansion that is used for investment. That's not how investment should be made. It should be made by real money and real savings. So the negative interest rates, it will continue. I've said before, and I still believe that the US also will go into negative interest rates, and I promise you, it's only coincidence that I happen to be Swedish and Swiss, and they both have negative interest rates. Sweden has 0.55%, Switzerland has 0.75%, and you're right. A lot of people now want to take money out of the bank and put it in cash, in the safe, etc. And this is why now every single country in the world is now stopping people from taking out cash. And then you have limits in Europe of 3,000, and now it was going to go to 1,000, 3,000 in Italy. It's 1,000 in France, euros that you can take out, etc. Switzerland doesn't have any limit yet, and you can still, although the banks have imposed, many banks say 100,000 in cash, that's all you can take out. But Switzerland, we still have the 1,000 franc note here. So we actually, they have been in great demand because people are taking it out rather than paying a negative interest rate. They're taking it out of the bank and want to keep it in a safe. Yes, negative interest rates is a disease. Is just a result of manipulation and financial repression, and which is failing and going to fail even worse. And sadly, as I said, it's all to the detriment of normal people because it discourages saving totally. So I'm obviously not in favor, and I think, but I think more countries will go negative in the next few months and years.
Yeah, well, when they go negative, they've got to stop the cash from being pulled from the bank, so they end up with a cashless society, as you just articulated. So now all the banks, the money's locked into the banking system, and so there's going to stop bank runs. But I don't think everybody realized the new laws say that we have bail-ins. So if there's a problem with the bank, they take your money that's now locked in there. So you really lose control. Is the investment policy today should be people thinking about being outside the banking industry because it has a lot of risk? Gold is one example of being outside the banking industry. Is there that? And I guess I follow that up too, Egon, because there's a lot of fear about a potential second EU banking crisis coming.
Oh, there will be. You know, you had one rule after the other to control the world. It started with the Americans with FATCA, and which meant that everybody had to report to everybody else based on what America told the world. I cannot understand why the rest of the world, the banking system, didn't just oppose it, but they didn't. And then now, you have the next big thing, which is the OECD exchange of information, which comes into effect next year, which means that virtually almost every bank in the world, in every country, even in offshore areas, every bank now has to exchange information with other countries whenever they ask for it. So there's no bank secrecy, there's no confidentiality. And it's, for us who are libertarians, I mean, I think it's a terrible thing, this control. And now the next one, as you say, is the cash one. So then countries can totally control, because Sweden, they're talking about having no cash after 85 years' time. It could go that way. Whether they will actually ban it or not, I don't know. But certainly even today, everybody uses credit card. In my view, the biggest reason, which nobody says, is that this is a way of stopping bank runs, of course, because we know that there won't be, banks are leveraged up to 50 times, like Deutsche Bank, and if people go and get their money out, there is no money there. And therefore, they're stopping the people taking cash out, because now you can't have any bank runs. And then you say, as you rightly said, then you'll have bail-ins. Then, of course, people will not get hold of their cash, and there'll be bail-ins, and there will be forced savings into government bonds, etc., for 30 years or so. So, yes, there are not many assets, coming back to your question, it was a long answer, there are not many assets today that you can hold outside the banking system except for real assets. So real assets are, of course, property, land, and then we talk about precious metals, and there are a few other things also. I mean, a lot of these assets, so if you take property, land, art, etc., in my view, are bubble assets today, because they have been fueled by the credit expansion. Gold hasn't gone up of any significance in the last few years. So holding gold is like holding real money that never devalues over time, and it's absolutely instantaneous cash. Whenever, if you have a piece of gold, you can get money for it straight away, and if there isn't a bank that can give you money, you can use it as barter. In every period of crisis throughout history, gold has had the function of barter, and it's functioned extremely well if there is no cash in the system. So holding gold or silver and storing it outside the banking system is a wonderful way of ensuring your wealth and having liquidity at the same time. And so far, I don't believe there will be any confiscation of gold. I think there might be taxation of all the assets of the rich. I mean, that's possible, but confiscation I don't believe in. And of course, so people, if they do hold gold and hold it outside the banking system, they actually have an asset that they can use as money. Now, the advantage for Americans, for example, also today, is that they don't have to, it's one of the few assets that they don't have to report. So they don't actually have to take it out. If they hold it abroad, they don't have to put it in their FBAR or the 8938 form. So that's a great advantage for Americans. For how long that will last, I don't know, but it's actually nice property and precious metals you don't have to declare to the IRS in the US if it's held outside the banking system under your direct control.
Egon, that's actually where I wanted to go with the last question here, is how do you internationalize your gold, your precious metal holdings, so that you're not only outside the banking system, but you're outside regimes, which may be the taxation, etc. Are there any kind of rules or ideas or suggestions or trends that you're seeing in that regard?
Well, we are in the three areas today. But sadly, there are not that many good areas where you have the rule of law on the one hand and proper balls on the other hand. Switzerland, you have to remember that Switzerland refines 60 to 70% of the gold in the world today, of the gold bars in the world. And therefore, there's a tradition in Switzerland, and therefore, I think Switzerland would be the last country to confiscate or do anything silly with the gold, because why should they kill the goose that lays the golden egg? Because it's an important industry. Plus, it's a tradition in Switzerland always to save in gold or to have some gold. Also like Swiss gold coins, they're called frenely. So Switzerland is still, in spite of what the Americans did to the Swiss banking system, they haven't changed the Swiss political system, which is the best in the world. I lived in a lot of countries, as I said, I'm Swedish and Swiss. I'm not prejudiced against Switzerland, but definitely the political system here is absolutely better than anything I've seen in the world. And you have people power here to a great extent. So Switzerland, I think, is still a very important place to store gold. Singapore is also, there is rule of law. It is a very good economy now. There is an American naval base, and the banking system is influenced by the US to some extent. But I think Singapore is very good too. We also store in Hong Kong, and then of course that is also right now it's a very safe area. Whether that will change because of China, that's something that I think one has to look at. So that's it. We don't see any other jurisdictions which are good enough, and whether there's rule of law or no corruption, and where there are good balls in the world today. Might come, but we don't see that.
I said that was the last question, but I have to ask one more before you break, because you mentioned the quality of the Swiss political system. What is the European views, or your views on the current U.S. primary activities going on for the next election? I'm sure there's difference of opinions. Mexico has just banned our Trump coming into Mexico, so we'll see.
I think, there is no European view, of course, but as you know, the media in the West are all influenced from the US. I mean, they all think the same. There is no original thinking in the media. Now, I mean, everybody's following it with amusement, and of course, you know that, for example, the UK tried to ban Trump because of the coming to the UK, because he was not willing to accept Muslims coming to the US. I think Europe follows it with interest, but I don't think they really care, because whoever is elected is not going to change much. Yes, Trump would be slightly different, but at the same time, that's one of the reasons why I wonder if the elite will allow him to be elected, whatever they will do to stop him, because he will break a lot of the power that the elite has, and the central bank and the Fed, etc. So I think it would be refreshing for the American economy. But therefore, I think, and he would break a lot of the traditions that need to be broken, like auditing the Fed, for example. We want to see that a lot. We want to find out that there is no gold in the Fed, or U.S. Government or the Fed doesn't hold the gold, which most of us think that they don't anymore. So those things would be refreshing. But you know what? This is so typical for the world. So in the US, you see nothing else but about the US election. In Europe, we see not as much about it. Not going to make any difference. The world's going to go under anyway. Whoever is elected is not going to save the financial system. It is too late. There's too much debt, and therefore, if people focus more on actually what's happening in the world and to try to improve that, which, as I said, is going to be very difficult, if not impossible, rather than thinking about the election or the latest movie or whatever. So I think it's amusing, it's a show, it's at a very, very low level of debate, sadly, the American election. But that's what appeals to the masses, so sadly, that's we're not going to change the political system.
Right, so it's you better take care of yourself. The politicians aren't going to create or come up with solutions. And I think, as Ronald Reagan says, the government is the problem. The government is not the solution. And so things like gold, precious metals, these are the ways to actually preserve your wealth going forward, and other hard assets, and real assets. Egon, in wrapping, could you tell our listeners how they could learn more about? I know you do a lot of writing, you do various interviews, but about Gold Switzerland and Matterhorn Asset Management.
Yes, no, the easiest is you can, people go to goldswitzerland.com, goldswitzerland.com. It's very transparent. It shows everything about how we work, all the things that I publicize, etc. We have another site called matterhorn.gold, but I mean that they interlink a lot. So go to Matterhorn, go to goldswitzerland.com, and they'll find everything that we do. And we think I do this as a passion. It's not because in any way we're trying to sell gold to people or make people invest in it. For me, it's a passion because I think this would be absolutely critical to preserve your wealth in the coming years. And sadly, very few people realize that.
Egon, thank you again for having you. I always enjoy our conversations, and we're obviously going to have you back again as this unfolds, and also to find out just exactly what draw he did do as we talked.
Right, okay, we'll have a look.
How close and accurate you were. Talk to you again.
All right, yes, okay. Thank you very much, Gordon. Always a pleasure. Thank you.